What's good, YouTube? Welcome to episode 4 of the survival tutorial. So I had a little bit of an issue. I just recently cleaned off my PC and I have a problem right now to where the game save didn't copy over, just specifically this one. I don't know why. I went to go load it and it said there was no instance of the save found. So I ended up having to restart. So what I did is I went into creative mode, found a new spot that's pretty much the same as what we had, except for we've got some ice over here, but we're not too worried about that because we were on an ice lake anyway. So I went ahead and basically recreated exactly what we had on the last episode here. I used the picture at the very end of the video to figure it all out and all of that, and I tried to pretty much get rid of what we had gotten rid of on the respawn pod. I might have missed a few things, but I'm not too worried about that. We are a little bit lacking compared to what we had in materials. All I've done so far is just drilled down with a single drill here, so we should be able to make our drills and stuff like we were working on in the last episode and get it all set up, so we'll be good to go on that. I also added a couple minor mods to the game. Don't worry, it's not mods that are going to affect anything, just basically a couple looks mods to make the video look better. In fact, I'll show you those mods now. The first of the mods that we've added is Sneaky Sounds. All this does is makes the tools quieter, so it's not so jarring to the ears in the video. I've also added Apotha Light, which is simply a lighting mod that'll change the way that the world looks at night and with shadows. Basically, it makes the shadows deeper and makes it look more realistic instead of being super bright at night. I've also added Relative Spectator V2, which allows me to, when I'm shooting my secondary camera footage, it'll allow me to follow a ship or a player with the secondary camera without having to worry. It's just a way for me to get better shots. Also, camera panning and clear camera screen are for the same exact reason. If I want to use cameras for my secondary footage, then it's better to be able to rotate the camera and move it around as I'm recording, and also having a fully clear camera screen instead of having the actual camera look on it and everything. That way you get better views. Clear LCD is just so you guys can see things better in the LCDs that we will possibly be using in the future. Doctor's Vanilla Voxels simply replaces 33 of the textures that were already in the game with better looking textures to make your guys' experience a little bit better. Yeah, I know it's not going to be the same exact vanilla version that everyone else is running, but this just makes the videos look a little bit better. Okay, so now that we're back into the game, what we're going to do here is we are going to continue on with what we were doing last time and start working on this piston rig here. So I'm going to go ahead and reverse this piston, and we're going to go ahead and queue up all of the drills that we need as soon as this is done. Let me go ahead and do exactly that. I need to get into the production here to create, well, I've got some steel plates, so that's not a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and start placing the drills here. That way I can queue them all up. So it turns out I was a little short on materials by just running that one drill down into the center. So I'm going to go ahead and drill some more here, just what we can at the moment, so we can get more materials so we can finish up these last 4 drills here. Alright, so I've got all the drills made, so I'm going to go ahead and just let them drill on down to start with. We're going to go for 1 full piston length. We're getting to the point now to where we need to start thinking about upping our production because it's taken forever to finish this stuff up, and now that we've actually got some resources, we can start thinking about maybe upping to a regular assembler and refinery. That way everything will go faster, and then we can just up it from there as we need to. So I'm going to let this dig all the way down 1 piston length so we can get started to where we want to go. We're probably going to have to pull all this apart and add another piston so we can go even deeper, because we want to go deep enough into the ground here to where none of this is in the way before we start expanding it out, which I will be showing you how to do that very shortly. Now's a perfect opportunity to show you what I was talking about with the mods that I'm running. As you see, everything's a lot cleaner looking at night than it was. It's not so bright, and it makes it feel more like nighttime, if you ask me. That's the lighting mod that I did, and the mod that for the voxels, if you notice, everything looks a little bit different. Like the ice looks different, the ground looks a little bit different, and I think there's a strange interaction between the lighting mod and the voxel mod to where it doesn't completely work out quite right, but I'll have to figure that out. I don't know if they're compatible or not. I'll look into those. If you are looking to do mods early game, I recommend they only be the looks mods like this to start with. For one, you don't have to learn anything new. You just install them and you're done. And number two, they don't change your gameplay, so you still learn to play the game correctly, and it doesn't really mess with anything. So that's why I recommend starting with your visual mods and then upgrading to gameplay mods later. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and grind all these drills down and place all these stuff into the containers here. Now I'm gonna keep myself from accidentally grinding all of this down. That way it's easier for me to just toss it back in for now. As you see, I'm grinding one down and tossing the materials into the one next to it, and leaving a couple steel plates there for now, just so I can move around here. That's the whole reason for it, just so I don't lose my footing and have to use my jetpack.
Inventory full.
And just a quick reminder, the way that I'm putting all this stuff in here so quickly is Alt middle click. That'll take everything that you can out of your inventory and place it in the container in front of you. And because these drills don't actually hold cargo, it goes directly into the cargo hold. Okay, so now that I've gotten all of those done, I can go on and grab this one out and put them directly into the center. And now I can go ahead and grind the rest of these down. There we go, and I'm going to toss all this stuff into there, and now I'm going to actually need my jetpack. I'm just trying to save as much fuel as I can for now. Even though we do have ice right here, I'm trying not to have to refill until we actually get some better base build up here. I'd like to make a way to drill ice automatically underneath the base, because I'm going to be extending the base out a little bit more. So that's basically why I'm trying not to scar up the ice too much. It's just a personal opinion. I like the way it looks better if you don't scar the ice up. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to have to make a piston, which we had unlocked before, but I haven't unlocked it yet. So let me go ahead and fix this up. I'm going to have to work on this battery here. That comes from having to restart the game. I haven't unlocked everything. I'm going to have to unlock them as we go again. So if we've already unlocked something in the series and I have to unlock it, that's why. I do want to leave progression on for this series. Alright, now I need some steel plates here. So let me go on and grab a couple of those and place this piston. Let's see, can we do 3 pistons though? That's going to be the real question now, isn't it? Because if we can do 3 pistons and a drill, yes, we can. Perfect. This will allow us to go even further before we have to do anything. So let's go ahead and set it up like this and get everything set up to go. So I'm going to have to go ahead and build these pistons first. That's going to be the most important thing. So I'm going to make sure my build planner is cleared out. And I am going to queue everything for the build planner up, including, now here's the thing, if you queue up a piston, this top piston part does not queue up as well, so you're going to have to individually find that and fix it into your build planner, just so you know. Otherwise you won't make everything that you need to make. And just remember, your build planner capacity is only 8 items. You cannot queue up 9, you can only queue up 8. So I'm going to go ahead and queue this stuff up and drop everything into the inventory here and grab out what we need. Actually, let me cancel those queues. I should have done all the grabbing before I queued it up. That would have been the smart thing to do, because we already had items for most of the things. Now, I don't remember if we had the what upgraded tools we had in the last episode. I'm going to have to go back, watch the episode real quick, and then figure that out. Just to make sure I get the right tools. Alright. Is that everything we... No, it's not. Okay. I do remember we had a seat over here that I haven't put in yet, so let me go ahead and do that. Now, when I do this, I like to get this middle drill in first, because if I do that, I didn't do it this time, but I should have done it. But if I do that, it makes it easier for me to grab the pieces and parts as I need them. I'll show you what I mean as soon as I get it made. Okay, so as you see, we've got a access point here that we can just grab stuff out of to build. That's why I like to get the middle drill done as soon as possible. The key with Space Engineers is if you want to be efficient, you want everything to be as close to you as you possibly can while you're building, because otherwise you're just going to be running around like a chicken with your head cut off, and that's no fun. Okay, so let me go ahead and queue all this stuff up. And in this situation, it's probably better to get these middle ones first as well while you're working on it. That way you've got access all over the place on each individual side. Okay, so I've used up all my parts here, so now is the time that I want to go ahead and clear out my build planner and queue these things up again. Just whatever we still need here, because we did use a couple extra components, which is why we need to do this, and just queue those up. There we go, and we are good to go. So I'm going to let that build for a few seconds and then finish this up, and once that's done, it's about time that we need to start thinking about really beefing up the production now, since we have a drill platform that'll go pretty deep as it is. We're going to be able to pull in a lot of stone by doing this. So what we want to do is we want to think about replacing this assembler and this refinery, just so we can speed up the whole process a little bit. So once I get this drill platform done, we'll go ahead and build that. Okay, I now have that done, and I've got a couple extra steel plates here, which is perfect. I actually need a few more. Let's go ahead and queue up about 100 more. Steel plates is the one thing that you can really never have enough of, but especially early game, because you need those pretty much to start almost everything. So I'm just going to go grab a bunch of steel plates out of here, and we're going to go ahead and extend our floor here. I want to put the assembler and all of that on this side. That way I've got a special place for it. And I am going to go out over the water here. And the reason I'm going to go out over the water here is because I want to kind of do the same thing that we did with this drilling platform over the water as well. Just so we can get as much hydrogen as we possibly want and kind of hide it off a little bit. So we're going to be working on that as well. Okay, it looks like we're out of iron. Yes, we are out of iron. So now it's time to turn these drills on and get them to work. So I'm just going to choose all the drills by holding down shift, click on the first one, hold down shift and click on the last one. So now we can just turn the drills on. And we are going to have to set the inertial tensors here for these pistons as well. So let me go ahead and do that. Notice how it's not nearly as jumpy now. Unfortunately, I did find out that on the Xbox, you guys do not have share inertial tensor. I hope they put that on very, very soon, because it is probably the single most effective thing that they've ever put in Space Engineers. It allows you to keep from blowing things up all the time. A lot better. Okay, so we're going to continue to place all of these here and make more plates as well, because we're still going to need more plates. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and just make a couple hundred. So there we go. I'm trying to basically work my way out to the water here. I'm just thinking ahead on this, planning ahead, you know. We are going to have to upgrade all of this in the future, but we're going to be making a vehicle to do just that. So that's coming up in the next couple episodes. Once we actually have the materials up for it. Basically, once we up our production a little bit, we'll be able to quickly and easily make a couple vehicles. There are the vehicles that I want to make to start with are going to be a mining vehicle so we can go pick up things like cobalt and magnesium and all of that stuff. And then I also want to make a nice exploration rover so we can run around looking for things. And we'll probably make some sort of larger miner. Basically, I want to start out with a small, easy to make miner, and then I want to upgrade to an easier to use, bigger miner, just so I can show you guys a progression on that as well. And then we're probably going to start thinking about getting to space at that point. So we will actually work on our first rocket ship to get us to space shortly thereafter. Okay, so we do need to increase the distance on these pistons now because we are still out of iron. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give this a negative 0.1 to all the pistons. So basically by choosing all the pistons and just choosing control click on velocity here, it brings up the value to set. So if I put a negative 0.1 here, they're all at negative 0.1 now. So all I have to do in order to get them to extend is reverse here. And it will slowly move down. Now notice this is a lot faster than it was before at 0.1. The reason for that actually has to do everything with the fact that we're running 3 of them. So they're additive on their speeds. So just think about that. You don't really want to go over, I'd say 0.8 from what I've gathered. If you want to keep the clang down, you don't want to go over 0.8 meters per second. That's the big deal that I've learned. I'm watching the large cargo container here to see when it's almost full, and when it's almost full, we're going to go ahead and stop it. I'm keeping an eye on my second guy over here just so I can see when the pistons are fully extended, and then keeping an eye here. They look like they're a little over right at 2/3 extended at the moment, so we may actually be able to extend them completely without running out of space here, which would be amazing. This is the reason I like putting in a large cargo container to start with, is because it holds a lot more than any of the other containers. Okay, we're getting pretty close here, so I'm going to go ahead and stop these pistons just by toggling the blocks off, and we're going to go ahead and group these pistons as well just for now. So I'm going to choose all the pistons, go over to block group, and save. There's a reason we're doing this. This puts this up in the very top of the list, and we can just click that and we can toggle them on or off as necessary just by doing that. Okay, so now that we've gotten that done, we've got plenty of materials, and it's going to take a while for that to finish up. So I'm just going to continue on with what we were doing here, because we're going to have all the iron we can need for what we're doing right now. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not enough iron for the game, but it's enough for what we need to do now. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out a spot here just so I know what's going on. Okay, so that is lined up to where I want to put my stuff for this. Let me see exactly how big of a spot this is going to need. I'm going to pick these pistons back up, which is a good thing we grouped it. Makes it easier. And just hit reverse and hit on. And that'll pick all the pistons up. This way I can just mark out exactly how large of an area we need in order to keep this from hitting the base. I think that's just right. So it looks like 5 by 5, right? Yeah, 5 by 5 is enough. So we're going to go ahead and extend this same pattern down here. And we're going to give ourselves a place for what we're going to do in the future. So I need to go in 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nope. One more. Okay, so I need 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and place on number 6. There we go. And now we have our drill spot marked out here for the rest of it, which means if I put this here, I'll be able to understand what's going on a little bit better in the future. Now, one thing to note here is all of this is actually connected to this piece all the way down here. So there is no structural integrity in this game, which can be very useful. You can build some pretty cool structures because of it. However, it's not exactly realistic, but I understand why it's like that, and it's only like that so they can add more features into the game. The amount of processing power it would take in order to do that would be insane with some of the builds you can pull off. Okay, so this will be our ice processing area over here, and we're going to put, let's see, we need to go out this way a little bit, at least put a wall in here. So I guess right here would be a good place for a wall. This is just planning out for the future, is all I'm doing here. And I'm going to basically wall this entire thing off, but as you see, I'm gonna leave this spot open so we can put a conveyor through there. And I don't know, I think I'm gonna leave the spot open here too for the same thing. So let me go ahead and make a 1,000 steel plates here. We're gonna need those, and go grab some fuel. My respawn pod's all the way over here, so it's about time to start thinking about picking up some ice soon. But now that we've got everything marked out, it's a lot easier to deal with. In fact, yes, we do need some ice here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run over here to where I've got my ice area, and I'm just gonna dig down into that area because we know we're gonna dig into it in the future, which is why I like to mark these things out better early. So we know this area right here is safe to drill in. So I'm just gonna go ahead and drill up some ice here. And run it back over to the respawn pod. Okay, so now that I've gotten that taken care of, it is now time to start thinking about placing the rest of this stuff. So let me go ahead and grab up some light armor blocks. There we go. And I'm going to continue to do this right here just to build this out a little bit. This is for future use. I'm not going to completely close that in at the moment. So I'm going to leave that open, and I need to put a conveyor belt here. So let me go ahead and grab up the conveyor junction, which I don't have unlocked at the moment, but I did earlier. So let me find out what I need for it. Oh, okay, so the medium cargo container. So that'll be nice and easy to do. We've got one right here that we can just repair. And go ahead and grab up conveyor. And I'm gonna have to make some plates for this, so let me go ahead and do that. Now the thing about it is, if you want to connect your entire base, which you should, absolutely should, you're gonna have to think about your conveyor placements as you go. As you see, I was thinking about it as I was building walls. That way I don't have to go through and basically take down the walls later in order to run things through like I need to. So by placing this conveyor here, I can put whatever I want into this next room without issue. Ooh, and this is actually a really good use for this spot right here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add another conveyor here, and we're going to start getting rid of some of this gravel that we're not going to need. Gravel's only useful for specific things. About the only thing that you're going to need gravel for in this game is going to be your nuclear reactors, and you're not going to be building a ton of those, so you're probably better off getting rid of your gravel as you go. So I'm going to show you a way that we can get rid of the gravel pretty easily as we're building. Oh, and I just thought about it as well. The other vehicle that I wanted to do is known as a welding vehicle. That'll help us build our base a lot faster. So you can do a welding rover or a flying welder. We're going to do both in this series, but you can choose whichever one you want to use. You don't necessarily need both of them. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to actually look for sorters. We don't have them unlocked at the moment, I don't believe. So let me look. Yes, we do. Okay. We have the sorters unlocked. So I'm going to put what's called a conveyor sorter here in this spot right here, just so we can dump some of this gravel. What we can do is we can set this sorter up to tell the gravel, or set the sorter up and tell it to just dump all the gravel out onto the ground, which is very, very useful. That way it's basically a way just to get rid of excess stuff that you don't need. So let me go ahead and grab some interior plates here. In fact, I'm going to make about 100 interior plates and about 1,000 more steel plates. And go grab some energy while we're waiting on that. Okay, I can start making that now. So we're just going to go ahead and take this right here. And you notice the arrow here. The arrow actually really matters. You want the arrow pointing in the direction that you want your items to flow. So if you're trying to dump them out of the base onto the ground, you're going to want the arrows pointing away from your base. But if you're trying to move something into your base using a sorter, you're going to want it the other way around. So just remember that the arrows point in the direction of flow. So we're going to place this here, and we're going to go ahead and queue this up and dump these items that we have here, and just grab what we need and hit shift middle click to queue up the rest. The reason I did that before I started upgrading this is because I want to replace the interior plates that I used there, and it'll just automatically do that this way. So we're going to have to let this run for a little while because we've got... Actually, let's move the steel plates to the back. That's another thing you can do too. You can always rearrange stuff in here, and it's very, very useful. That way, it's going to build the steel plates after it builds everything else here. This is going to open up a lot of inventory room and probably unlock some stuff for us too. We need to make a connector as well. Okay, we can already do that. Good. And we're going to want to queue one of these up. So let me grab a steel plate here and place this. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this connector on the opposite side of the sorter. You're going to need this in order to eject. On small grids, there's a thing called an ejector, but on bases, you have to have a connector to do it. So large grid, you want to use connector. For a small grid, you want to use ejector. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to the list as well. And I'm going to wait for this. I'm not sure if it adds correctly. I haven't tested that. In fact, I probably want to test that in some time in the future to see if the build planner adds things, or if the build planner actually pays attention to what's already queued up versus what's not. I'm afraid that if I try to queue it up now, it'll queue everything over again, and we're just going to make a bunch of stuff that we don't need. So in order to make sure that does not happen, what I'm going to do is just wait for it to finish up what it's currently working on, which I think it's done with. Yes, it is. And then queue up just to test something here. Actually, it looks like it's working okay. Good. It looks like it does remember everything. That's a really good thing. So I'm going to go ahead and just start working on this stuff here. Okay, so while that's making the stuff for the connector, we're going to go ahead and get this sorter set up here. Now what you do is you just go to any control panel that you can find, and you find Conveyor Sorter. It doesn't have its own control panel, unfortunately. So what you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to come down here to filter mode and whitelist. So you've got a whitelist and a blacklist. What the whitelist does is allows you to pull items through based off of a list of stuff that is allowed. A blacklist does the exact opposite. It keeps things from coming through that you don't want to allow. So you could, if you set up a blacklist, it'll keep whatever's on your list from coming through. If you set up a whitelist, it'll keep whatever's on your list able to come through, and it will pull everything out of your inventories for that. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to come down on this add new filter here after going to whitelist, and we are going to specifically find, gravel here. So we're just going to go down, and this is all in alphabetical order. So we found gravel, so all we need to do is add that to the whitelist. So that's going to pull all of the gravel that we have and turn drain all on. Now you don't want to do that until after you've done the whitelist, or else it's going to start pulling random things through. So what that's going to do is, once we get this connector done, it's going to pull all of the gravel out of everywhere and put it directly into the connector. Now as you see right here, with the connector not working quite yet, it does have 1,000 liters storage inside of the sorter. As you see, it's pulled everything out. So like if I try to pull this out, nothing happens because it only works one way. So it'll go through the sorter in one direction. You can't go backwards in the sorter, which is a really good thing. That's also a good way, like if you're doing a mining ship and you don't want to put any stone back into the base or whatever, you can set a sorter up that way. If you're doing a welding ship and you just want specific components to come through, you can set it up that way. That way it doesn't go back and forth, it just goes in one direction. It's really good when you're trying to set up a refinery room and you want to refine specific things in specific refineries. We will be doing that as well. So we're gonna work into there and show you what's going on with that once we get our miner going. Okay, it seems I was wrong about that. We are producing a lot more things that we don't need here. So I'm just going to go on and cancel all those out and just run exactly what we do need here. So it did double the production of the sorter, it looks like. So just be aware of that. If you're trying to not make more than you need, then that's going to be an issue. Now there is a way around that. If you accidentally do and you're trying to keep everything as clean as you can to where you produce on demand, which is what I like to do. I like to produce on demand. It just basically saves on storage space and clutter. What we can do here is we can go into production and we're going to hit disassemble here. Now we want to hold on to these steel plates, so I'm going to move these steel plates over into the large cargo container here before we do anything. These are things that we want to hold on to, and these are things we want to get rid of. So what I'm going to do here, and you can set up sorters to do all of this as well if you're really creative about it, is just disassemble all of this stuff that we overmade. Now that this connector is done, what we're going to do is we're going to come over into the connector and we're just going to hit the F key here and then go to control panel. You can also use the K key to go directly to the control panel if you're on PC. I'm not 100% sure what the binding for the Xbox is, but okay, now that we're in here, what we're going to do is we're just going to set throw out on right here and collect all on right here. And as you see, anything that comes in here just gets tossed out. So what's happening here is it's dumping all of the gravel that we're not going to be using directly onto the ground. And there's a thing in the game called trash cleanup that will actually only allow so many floating items in the game. So as this fills up, these will start disappearing on us. Now, how many of these items you'll allow to be on the ground at any given time, I know on PC it's in the options. I'm guessing on Xbox it's probably in the options. I can't guarantee it. It's a performance issue thing. So you can actually adjust that in your game settings if you want to. If you want less of the things to be on the ground or more of the things, it doesn't really matter. You can adjust it accordingly. Now just remember that each one of these objects does have physics enabled, so you'll increase your drain on your system the more of them that you have. And for PC, I'm not sure if there is this mode on the Xbox. I need to look into see what the similarities and differences are on the Xbox. I'll probably do that before I shoot the next video. But if you go into admin tools here, you can find entity list here. Now you can't do this if you're on a server, by the way, but if you go to entity list, you can go sort by and select and go to floating objects. This will show you all the floating objects in the game. If you want to get rid of all these floating objects, I'm about to. So you just click on the first one, go all the way down to the bottom and hold down shift, right? And then we can just remove that. And it just removed all of those floating objects. So let's go back to grids and static grid. That's not the one, that's the one. And come back here, hit F6 to get out of that mode after you've hit escape. That way it'll bring you back to your character. And as you see, it deleted all of those and then the new ones have gone. So like if you ever have any performance issues, I recommend doing that first. Get rid of all your floating objects because that could be a major cause of performance issues in the future. But as you see, we're getting rid of all of this gravel that we don't need. So we're opening up space in our inventory quite quickly, actually. In fact, I think, yeah, we've already gotten rid of all the gravel. So we're getting rid of it as we make it, which is good. If you want to make gravel and hold on to it for, say, a reactor, all you have to do is cut this block off while you're doing it, and it won't come through. Okay, so now that that's done, let's go ahead and finish up our production boost that we need to do today. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to need a new refinery because this refinery is just not cutting it. It is very, very slow. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a refinery room here. I'm going to leave one block open in between like this, and I'm just going to place a couple refineries side by side here. We're not going to make all of them today. We're just going to make one of them. And then we're going to do assemblers as well in a separate room. And I'm trying to think about the way I want to do this. I think the assemblers are going to be in a separate room right in front or beside here. This just helps us keep things separated. It'll look better. Okay, grab out the steel plates that we have made. I like to separate things by rooms. That way, if I want to expand in the future, it's not a problem. Always leave room open just in case. The only reason I'm placing as many of them as I am at the moment, they're just placeholders for now. We're not going to need to build all of it. As we beef up our production and our generation of resources, we'll be able to beef it up even better. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and wall this room off. This is our drill room here. And the reason I want to leave a spot right here is just so we can move things around a little bit better. Like, see, right here, we don't really have room to run a conveyor. We could run a conveyor up here. In fact, that's probably a good idea. Let's go ahead and do that. Just constantly thinking ahead is all it is. You always want to think ahead to what you're wanting to do. Okay, let me grab up some interior plates here. And then, let's see, I need to get it to this spot. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and leave a little area here. So let me grab some more steel plates as well. I got to figure out where I want this wall. I want about right here should be the wall. Let me go grab some fuel. Okay, so I know where I'm going to put my wall, so I can figure out now where I want to put my assemblers. And I know I'm going to be running conveyor through here. The reason I left an extra spot open here is because we're going to end up putting what's called modules onto these later. So I need at least one block open and one block worth of maneuvering space. So yeah, we're just going to do this. Let's see, I need to place one here and here. And we're just going to run them straight through here. This is the wall that we're going to use, and I'm going to place a conveyor there. Okay, so now that we've got that there, we can now do our assemblers. And we want to think about the same thing as we just did with the assemblers. We're going to want to have an extra block around them. You notice these are different shape here, so we're going to have to think about that. And I like to do this. I like to put conveyors in the floors for these. In fact, that's not a good place for them. I'll show you why in just a moment. Let's see, this will be the good spot for them. I like to run the conveyors through the floors just to hide them a little bit. Alright, so we're going to grab conveyors. Think about it like plumbing for a house, you don't want the plumbing visible throughout the house, right? So why would you want it visible in your base? Okay, there we go. Now, the thing about these is, if you look at the model for this right here, you see these little spots, these little squares here? Those are actually for upgrade modules, just like we had on the refinery there. So these upgrade modules go around the sides. So we're going to have to open those, keep those open. So, and each one of them takes up 1 block. So if we put it here, and then put another one 2 out, and then another one 2 out here, just like that. Let me go ahead and extend that one more. That'll give us room for what we want to do here. And if we want to extend this later, we can. So 6. We're only going to do 3 of each for now. That's more than enough for really early game. Okay, so today we're only going to build 1 each. So we're going to have to upgrade all of our conveyors here. So that's what we're going to work on first, is the conveyors. So I'm going to go ahead and get these conveyors built up, and I will catch up with you when those are done. Okay, so now I actually have the conveyors built. So I've made a connection all the way from my large storage container here that comes over to where we're going to put our refineries, and then it runs through the wall here, which actually I'll fix this one up in a little while. That should be a conveyor junction there. And then it runs down the side into the floor here, and then through the floor all the way to the assembler. So all we need to do today is we need to build 1 assembler and 1 refinery. So let's go ahead and make sure our build planner is ready to go. Yes, it is. And queue these up. There we go. And we will go ahead and get them all completely queued up. Now, while this is building, I do want to talk about this. We have different modules. Let's see if we have any of them. No, we don't have any of them unlocked yet. We're going to have to figure out what... I think we need to build the assembler or something like that. Yeah, the assembler here. So we've got a speed module, a yield module, and a power efficiency module. Now, each one of these does specific things for your production units. So the speed module speeds it up, and it costs more power when it does so. The yield module is, if you don't want to go out and you're hand mining things and stuff like that, it's better to use the yield module. You'll get more out of the ore that you're processing. And the power efficiency module, the yield module also costs a little more electricity. And the power efficiency module is just that. It requires less power to use the assembler refinery. So if you're running into power issues, you want to use those. As of now, we're pretty well set to build what we want to, and we're going to be expanding our power in the next episode. So we'll probably end up going with speed modules before it's all over with. I would choose the modules based off of specifically what it is that you're looking for in your setup. If you guys want me to cover the different modules and actually put a testing video up to show you guys everything about that, let me know in the comments, and I will be more than happy to add that to the list of things that I'm working on. Now, the reason why we waited until now to do the refineries, as you notice, it requires 1,200 steel plates. It requires so much iron, it's not even funny. You do not want to try to go for one of these in the early game, because you'll just basically just work on that one specific thing for forever if you do. If you're hand mining, it's going to take you forever to finish up an actual refinery. You usually want to start out with the basic setup and then move up to the main setup, which is exactly what we're doing. Once we get these 2 built, we can actually get rid of these 2 right here. We won't need these anymore at that point. So that's basically what I'm working on at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and get the refinery and assembler built, so I'll be right back. Alright, so we just finished all of that up. We now have an assembler and a refinery running at decent speed. It's not full speed yet. However, we will be upgrading that in the future. I'm going to go ahead and leave this video here. In the next video, we will actually work on our power production, because as of now, we are going to be running out of battery power in about 3 hours. We're not producing enough energy at the moment, so that's what we're going to concentrate on in the next episode, is power production. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. How about dropping a like to let me know that you did? Also, if you haven't already, help us reach our goal of 2,000 subscribers. If you liked what you saw and you want to see more, click one of the videos on your screen now. Thank you. Have a nice day.